My name is Isabella Martinez, and I'm 32 years old. 3 years ago, I walked away from my family, and more importantly, from everything they thought I wasn't. I built a name for myself as a chef in Chicago, not just someone who could plate pretty food, but someone who fought tooth and nail to create a culinary identity. I ran a Michelin star restaurant, worked 80-hour weeks, and earned every ounce of my reputation. And yet, none of that mattered to my parents, not when compared to my younger brother, Leo. They always said Leo had the Martinez charm. He could smile through failure and talk his way out of disaster. Me? I was too precise, too serious, too foreign in my own family's kitchen. You see, we come from a long line of restaurateurs in San Antonio, Texas. Our family restaurant Casa Martinez has been a landmark in the city since the 80s. Traditional, rustic, family-run. My abuelo, my father, and, according to everyone but me, soon, Leo, not that it mattered. I had stopped caring, or at least I told myself I had. That was until a voicemail from Mr. Delgado, our family's longtime attorney, shattered the silence. Miss Martinez, I regret to inform you that your parents, Juan and Teresa, passed away in a car accident 2 nights ago. I know things between you and the family have been distant, but there are matters that require your presence, especially for the reading of the will. My fingers tightened around the phone. I could barely feel the screen against my palm. For a moment, I just stood there in my kitchen, surrounded by the scent of burnt sage and roasted corn. The prep staff was bustling behind me, plating lunch for VIP guests. And there I was, frozen, like I was 19 again, hearing my dad say, "Your brother understands the heart of our food. You, you overthink it." I almost didn't call Mr. Delgado back. What was the point? My parents had made it clear years ago that I wasn't part of their vision for the family. I wasn't the heir. That title belonged to Leo, always had. From the day he cooked his first scrambled eggs and got a standing ovation at a family reunion, they'd practically engraved his name on the restaurant sign. But something in Delgado's voice, the weight of his words, made me pause. There are matters that concern you directly. That was what he'd said. Not optional matters, not we'd like you to come, but matters that concern you directly. So I said yes. I booked a flight home to San Antonio for the first time in 3 years. I didn't cry on the plane. I didn't even feel numb. What I felt was angry. That after everything, after being told to keep my French cooking out of their sacred kitchen, after hearing my dad announce Leo as the next head of Casa Martinez at that cursed family dinner 3 years ago, they still had some hold on me. The moment I stepped off the plane, the warm Texas air hit me like a memory I didn't ask for. Barbecue smoke, dry pavement, the sound of cicadas and Tejano music in the background. It all came rushing back. I grabbed my rental car, punched in the address of my old house, and started driving. I told myself I wasn't here to reconnect. I was just here to do what was necessary and leave. But I had no idea that the next 72 hours would rewrite everything I thought I knew about my family. That the same people who pushed me away would leave behind something that could change the course of my life. And that my brother, so smug, so sure of his inheritance, was about to get the shock of his life. 3 years ago, I stood in the dining room of my parents' home, watching my father raise a glass of Rioja with pride in his eyes, and my brother seated beside him, beaming like he'd just won a Lifetime Achievement Award. "Let's toast," my father announced, "to Leo Martinez, the future of Casa Martinez. Starting next month, he'll officially take over operations and begin shadowing me as managing partner." Applause erupted around the table. Tias, tios, cousins, even our neighbors from across the street. Everyone clapped like it was the coronation of a prince. I sat frozen, the stem of my wineglass slick in my hand. My mother reached out and gently touched my arm, as if she had just remembered I existed. "You'll still be part of the family story, mija," she said, "just in your own way." I didn't smile. I couldn't. This wasn't a surprise. Not really. The signs had always been there. Leo was the golden boy, the one who got praised for making microwaved nachos when we were kids, while I got scolded for messing with traditions every time I tried to add citrus to the salsa verde. But something about that night, the finality of it, cracked something open in me. I had spent years learning the art of food, studied at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris, worked in brutal kitchens with screaming chefs and bleeding hands. I had risked everything to honor our roots while expanding them, and none of it had been enough. That night was supposed to be a quiet family dinner, just me, Leo, and our parents. Instead, they had turned it into a surprise announcement party. For him, no one had told me. After the toast died down, I stood and quietly excused myself. My heart was pounding, not just with anger, but with hurt. I walked into the kitchen, the heart of every Martinez gathering, and stared at the same countertop where my abuela used to teach me how to fold tamales when I was 5. I remember her saying once, "The ones who care about the masa are the ones who should run the kitchen." I had always cared. Behind me, I heard footsteps. "Leo, you okay?" he asked, too casual. I turned. "Did you know about this?" He smiled sheepishly. "They told me last week. I wanted to tell you, but they said it should be a surprise." "Yeah," I said coldly. It was. Leo leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Look, I know you've done your own thing, but this is about legacy, Izzy. You're all about innovation, fusion. This restaurant is about roots. That's what Dad always says." I stared at him. I know exactly what he always says, and I'm tired of pretending I don't hear it. He blinked. "I've been busting my ass to prove myself," I said, voice rising. "And not once has either of them asked what I want, whether I'd want to be part of Casa Martinez." Leo looked awkward. "Well, would you?" "Yes," I snapped. "Of course I would. But not as some backup plan or creative consultant they wheel out when it's convenient. I would have wanted a seat at the table. But they never offered it, because they already decided years ago." The door creaked again. This time, it was my father. "Everything all right in here?" he asked, tone clipped. "Just fine," I said, wiping my hands on a napkin. "But I think I'll head out." He frowned. "Now, we haven't cut the cake." I've lost my appetite. My mother soon followed, heels clicking on the tile. "Isabella, don't be like this. Can't you just be happy for your brother?" There it was, the refrain I'd heard my entire life. Don't make this about you. Be happy for Leo. Don't ruin the moment. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "You've made your choice," I said calmly, "and now I'm making mine." I turned to Leo. "Congratulations, it's all yours." And with that, I walked out the back door, got in my car, and drove until San Antonio was a memory in the rearview mirror. That night, I deleted every family group chat, blocked their numbers. The only message I sent was a single line to my father. "Thank you for finally saying what you've always thought. I don't belong." I meant it. For 3 years, I lived like that chapter was closed. But now, the ink was starting to bleed through the page again. The morning of the funeral arrived under a thick gray sky. A light drizzle tapped against the windshield as I pulled into San Fernando Cemetery, the same place where 3 generations of my family rested, including my abuela, the soul of Casa Martinez. I sat in the rental car for a long moment, watching people in black move slowly under umbrellas. From a distance, the Martinez plot looked like a reunion I wasn't invited to. Leo was front and center, arms around our cousin Elena, looking appropriately mournful. He played the grieving son like a seasoned actor. I didn't expect to cry, and I didn't. Instead, I felt disconnected, like I was attending the funeral of 2 people I'd already said goodbye to years ago. Still, I walked forward, heels crunching over damp gravel, heads turned as I approached. I caught snippets. "Is that Isabella?" She actually came back, as if I were some scandalous celebrity making an appearance at a scandalous premiere. Leo looked up and saw me. His expression flickered. Surprise, discomfort, and something else, maybe fear. He gave me a stiff nod. "Didn't think you'd come." "I almost didn't," I replied. "But Mr. Delgado said I should." Leo raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Instead, he turned back to the priest, who was preparing to begin. The service was short, formal, a few words about legacy, love, and tradition. It was also polished, so sanitized, like their lives had been perfect. No mention of estranged daughters, no room for messy truths. After the final blessing, I stepped away, weaving through the rows of gravestones until I found the one I cared about most. Ramona Martinez, beloved wife, devoted mother, fierce matriarch. The fire in her kitchen fed the hearts of her children. My abuela. I knelt beside her grave and rested my hand on the smooth stone. You were the only one who ever saw me, I whispered. The only one who didn't make me feel like I was a guest in my own family. You still are, mija. The voice startled me. I turned. It was Luisa, the head waitress from Casa Martinez. She'd worked with our family since I was in middle school. She looked older, more tired, but her eyes still held the same warmth. Luisa, I said softly, you're still here. She nodded. I never left. We stood in silence for a moment before she added, neither did your father, in the end. What do you mean? She glanced around, then leaned in slightly. He changed, Isabella. After you left, he pretended he didn't care. But I saw him. Every night he'd sit in the back office with a photo of you and your abuela. I think he regretted how things went. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But regret without action felt hollow. I never heard from him, I said flatly. Not a call, not a message, nothing. Louisa hesitated. He said he sent letters. My heart dropped. Letters? She nodded. Said he gave them to Leo. Said you'd changed your number, moved around too much. He asked Leo to send them. I froze. Leo had my email, my address, my website. There was no reason to act like I couldn't be reached. Unless he didn't want me to be reached. What else did he say? I asked, my voice suddenly hoarse. Louisa looked at me closely. Only that he hoped one day you'd come home. Not for the restaurant, for yourself. I thanked her, though my mind was spinning. If my father had truly tried to reach me, and Leo had kept that from me. What else had he hidden? As I walked back to my car, the drizzle became a steady rain. I didn't bother with an umbrella. My thoughts were racing too fast. Something was off. Something bigger than sibling rivalry. Bigger than disappointment. A part of me wanted to dismiss it all as grief talking. But deep down, I felt it. This wasn't just about the restaurant anymore. This was about truth, legacy, and the lies my brother built to protect a crown that was never his to begin with. The next morning, I stood in the quiet hallway of Delgado and Associates, palms damp, nerves twisting in my stomach like over-kneaded dough. Mr. Delgado's office hadn't changed. Same mahogany shelves, same frame degrees, same crystal candy dish full of butterscotch I used to sneak as a child while waiting for my parents to finish estate meetings. He greeted me with a firm handshake and a sympathetic smile. I appreciate you coming in, Isabella. I wasn't sure I would, I admitted. But you did, he said, gesturing for me to sit. And I'm glad, because what I'm about to share with you, it's not something I wanted you to hear for the first time in a room full of relatives and lawyers. He opened a drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope, yellowed slightly at the edges. My name was written on the front, in my father's handwriting, the bold, clean strokes I'd recognize anywhere. I was instructed to give you this, he said quietly, only after his passing, regardless of whether you attended the will reading or not. I stared at it for a moment. It was strange. All those years craving a word, any word from him. And now here it was, sealed, final, no chance to respond. With slightly trembling fingers, I broke the seal and unfolded the letter. Isabella, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and I lost the chance to say this to you face to face. That's my greatest regret. For most of my life, I saw only what I wanted to see. In Leo, I saw confidence, a mirror of myself perhaps, someone who could win a room, shake a hand, charm a customer. And in you, I saw resistance, questions, changes, things I didn't understand, and I'll admit, didn't try hard enough to, but I was wrong. I've been watching you from afar. Your work, your principles, the way you've honored our heritage, while forging something uniquely yours. You didn't abandon the family, Isabella. We abandoned you. I let tradition blind me to the truth, that our legacy isn't just recipes or restaurant walls, it's the values behind them. Respect, passion, integrity. And in those things, you are the one who carries our family forward. That's why I met with Mr. Delgado. That's why I changed the will. I've left instructions. You'll learn more soon. But know this is not a gesture of guilt. It's recognition. Long overdue. I hope you can forgive me one day. Dad. I folded the letter carefully, staring at nothing, letting the words sink into the quiet of the room. He did see me. In the end, my father, the man who once told me a real Martinez chef didn't need fusion nonsense, had admitted he was wrong. He'd chosen me, and suddenly, all those pieces started falling into place. The letters Louisa said he gave to Leo, the look on Leo's face at the funeral, the fact that Mr. Delgado had called me personally, insisting I attend the will reading. What exactly did he change in the will? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Delgado leaned back, choosing his words with care. Your father amended it 6 weeks before the accident. He reassessed the business succession plan and updated beneficiary instructions. Meaning? Meaning you, Isabella, are the sole inheritor of Casa Martinez. Not just the building or the brand, but full legal control of the restaurant and its associated assets. I blinked. You're saying Leo gets nothing? He hesitated. He's mentioned, but only minimally. A modest trust, some personal items. The business, your father was clear, goes to you. My breath caught. Does Leo know? Mr. Delgado shook his head. Not yet. He's expecting the old version of the will. The amended version hasn't been disclosed publicly. Tomorrow, at the formal reading, it will be. I sat in stunned silence. The restaurant was mine? But more than that, my father had seen me. And Leo, he had hidden that from me? The letters, the truth. Why? The answer was obvious. Because he knew. He knew Dad was changing his mind, and he couldn't risk losing everything he believed was rightfully his. I rose slowly. Thank you, Mr. Delgado. There's one more thing, he said, standing. I expect there will be resistance, possibly even legal pushback. Leo isn't one to go quietly. I met his gaze. Let him push. I'm not leaving this time. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the outsider in my own family story. I was the one holding the pen. The next morning, I stood outside Delgado and Associates once again. Only this time, I wasn't just a forgotten daughter returning for formality. I was about to walk into a room where truth would change everything. The conference room was already half full when I stepped in. Leo was there, seated comfortably at the long mahogany table, dressed in a tailored navy suit and polished loafers, his hand resting possessively on a sleek black folder. His wife Camila sat beside him, flipping through her phone like this was just another brunch meeting. Our cousin Elena, 2 uncles, the head accountant of Casa Martinez, and even Luisa were also present. Mr. Delgado stood at the head of the table, flanked by 2 junior associates, papers neatly stacked beside him. Leo looked up and gave me a tight smile. Didn't expect you to stay for this. I took the empty chair across from him, matching his gaze. Well, I figured it was time I stopped missing the important family meetings. He blinked, the smile faltering. Camila leaned over and whispered something in his ear. He shrugged it off. Mr. Delgado cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. As you know, we're here for the official reading of Juan and Teresa Martinez's final will and testament, as amended and executed on March 2nd, 3 weeks prior to their untimely passing. I glanced at Leo, his brows furrowed. Amended? Yes, Delgado replied smoothly, unfolding the document. It is my duty to state for the record that this amendment was made under the full legal and mental capacity of both Mr. and Mrs. Martinez, as confirmed by their physician, and 2 independent witnesses. Leo straightened in his seat, clearly caught off guard. Camilla stopped scrolling. As per the new directive, Delgado continued, specific sentimental items, jewelry, letters, and a few family heirlooms have been assigned to extended family. The family home will remain in the estate's trust for now. He paused. And as for the business entity, Casa Martinez LLC, and all its associated assets, brand rights, recipes, trademarks, and financial accounts. The room fell utterly silent. Delgado looked up, gaze steady. These shall be transferred in full to Isabella Esperanza Martinez, who shall assume full ownership and executive control of the business, effective immediately. The air snapped like a lightning bolt. What? Leo's voice sliced through the silence. Camilla's jaw dropped. That's not possible. Delgado didn't flinch. It is not only possible, it is legally binding. Your father left a video statement as well, in anticipation of this reaction. I want to see it, Leo barked, face flushed red. Delgado reached into a side drawer and retrieved a tablet. Very well. He tapped the screen. The video began to play. There was my father, older, his face lined with regret but firm with resolve. He wore the apron he always donned in the kitchen, standing behind the old prep counter we grew up around. If you're seeing this, he began, then our decision has caused distress. Let me be clear. This change was mine. Not done in haste, not out of guilt, but out of clarity. For too long, I assumed charisma and confidence were the same as leadership. I forgot that a true legacy must be earned, not inherited. He looked straight into the camera. Isabella, you carry the heart of this family's food, the soul of our tradition, and the courage to evolve it. I regret not telling you that while I was alive, but I see it now, and that's why you are the one to continue what my mother started, and what I, however imperfectly, tried to preserve. The screen went black. No one spoke. Leo shot to his feet, voice cracking. He wasn't thinking clearly. This is insane. I've been running Casa Martinez for 2 years. Everyone knows I was next. Delgado remained composed. Your father anticipated your objections. All paperwork was reviewed and certified. If you wish to contest, you are legally entitled to do so. But I should caution. I'm contesting this, Leo snapped. Every word. Of course you are, I said quietly, rising to face him. Because you've never once had to earn anything. You've only ever been handed it. He turned to me, eyes blazing. You think you can just walk back in after disappearing and steal what I've built? Built? I laughed softly. You've sold our mole recipe to a fast food chain, Leo. You've turned our legacy into a gimmick. Gasps rippled across the room. Luisa stood up. Is that true? Leo opened his mouth, then shut it. That was all the answer anyone needed. Delgado calmly gathered the papers. That concludes the formal reading, Miss Martinez. We'll begin the ownership transfer paperwork immediately following this meeting. As everyone filed out, Leo glared at me, his voice low and venomous. This isn't over. No, I replied, matching his stare. It's just finally beginning. The sign above the entrance hadn't changed. Casa Martinez, Ested 1982. Tradición con corazón. Tradition with heart. It was a slogan my abuela came up with. Simple, honest, and once sacred. But as I pushed open the heavy oak door and stepped inside the main dining room, I could feel it in my bones. Something had gone cold. It wasn't just the decor, though that had shifted too. Gone were the vibrant hand-painted tiles and family portraits. In their place were sleek, sterile light fixtures, minimalist gray walls, and menu boards that looked like they belonged in a modern taco chain, not in our restaurant. It was like someone had scrubbed out every piece of soul from the place and left behind only profit margins. A young hostess looked up, confused. Can I help you? I'm Isabella Martinez, I said simply. I'm here to see the kitchen staff. Her eyes widened. Oh, we weren't expecting. I mean, Leo didn't say. He wouldn't have, I replied. Please, let Chef Jorge know I'm here. She disappeared quickly. Seconds later, a familiar voice echoed from the back. Izzy, Chef Jorge Ramirez, our head cook for nearly 15 years, stepped out from behind the swinging kitchen doors, wiping his hands on his apron. He looked tired, older, but his face lit up when he saw me. Dios mío. I thought I'd never see you walk through that door again. I hugged him, holding on tighter than I meant to. Me neither, I whispered. But I'm here, and things are changing. He stepped back, eyes searching mine. Does that mean what I think it means? I nodded. I'm taking over. He didn't cheer. He just exhaled, a long, slow breath like someone who'd been holding their lungs full of worry for years. You need to see the books, he said, and the freezer. The freezer? He motioned for me to follow. Inside the walk-in, it hit me immediately. Cheap cuts of meat in bulk packages, off-brand canned goods, pre-made sauces, all things Casa Martinez had never used. What is this? Leo's idea, Jorge said grimly. He called it streamlining. It cut costs by 80% in 6 months, but customers noticed. Our regulars started disappearing. He opened a small container labeled mole base, and the smell alone made me gag. It was acidic, artificial. This is what he served instead of Abuela's recipe? I choked out. He sold the original, Jorge replied, tone heavy. Signed an exclusive licensing deal with some corporate group in Dallas. They use it in frozen burritos now. I leaned against the metal shelf, fury crawling up my spine like heat. He hadn't just modernized the menu. He had gutted it, sold our soul for shelf space and speed. I'm bringing it back, I said aloud. All of it. Jorge looked at me skeptically. You sure? The staff's scattered. Some of the best left after Leo cut hours. Morale's low. The place needs a full reboot. Then that's what we'll do, I said firmly. We'll bring back the old recipes, the real ingredients, and the real reason people came here. He studied me for a moment, then smiled. There she is, the girl who used to make tamales at 2 a.m. in college just to prove she could do it better than her professors. I grinned. Still stubborn? Good, he said. We'll need that. By noon, I had a list of everything we needed to restore, from vendors to staff rehiring. The ledgers Leo kept were sloppy, full of expenses that didn't add up, missing invoices, vague consulting fees linked to a company under Camila's cousin's name. It wasn't just poor management. It was borderline fraud, and I had no doubt there was more buried beneath the surface. But first, I had to reclaim the flavor, the feeling, the soul of Casa Martinez. As I stood in the center of the empty dining room, sunlight slanting through the front windows, I whispered to no one in particular. This place fed generations. It won't become another chain restaurant corpse. Not while I was still here. Not while I had a name to protect and a family legacy to resurrect. By the end of the week, the smell of real food had returned to Casa Martinez. Not mass-produced frozen sauces, not artificial citrus glazes, but the kind of aroma that made people close their eyes and sigh. Cumin, fresh masa, chipotle slowly simmering in beef stock, the way Abuela used to do it. Chef Jorge and I had spent 3 days rebuilding the menu from scratch, literally rewriting it by hand with a pencil and a stack of yellow legal pads. I called in every favor I had, old culinary school friends, former waiters who'd left under Leo's reign, local vendors who were thrilled to return. Every inch of the kitchen pulsed with purpose. People weren't just cooking, they were believing again. I hadn't felt this alive in years. But all that momentum came to a sudden, brutal halt late Friday afternoon. I had just finished reviewing the liquor inventory when Camilla walked in. High heels, perfect makeup, eyes sharp like a hawk in court. Behind her was Leo. He didn't look like the confident heir of Casa Martinez anymore. No tailored suit today. Just a black polo, dark jeans, and a fake calm stretched thin across his face. "What are you doing here?" I asked, voice flat. "I came to make an offer," Leo replied, arms crossed. I folded my arms to match. "You're not in a position to offer anything." "Maybe not officially," he said, glancing around the nearly empty dining room. "But from where I'm standing, this place looks half dead. Not much of a comeback." "It's called a soft reopening," I snapped. "Maybe you'd know that if you actually understood restaurants instead of just branding them." He gave a small forced chuckle. "Cute. Look, Isabella, I get it. You won. You got the paperwork, the name, the little love letter from Dad. But you and I both know this place can't survive just on nostalgia and corn tortillas. It needs cash flow, partners, licensing. I narrowed my eyes. You mean the same kind of partners you used to gut the menu and slap our family recipes on grocery store shelves? He shrugged. That mole deal tripled revenue in Q4 last year, at the cost of our entire identity. That's where we disagree, Camila cut in smoothly. To most people, a brand is just what's profitable. Leo made this brand profitable. I took a step closer. My father didn't build a brand. He built a legacy, and he trusted me to protect it. You sold it off piece by piece. Camila's expression hardened. You're clearly emotional. That's not a great leadership trait. And sabotaging your husband's sister isn't a great legal defense, I shot back. You intercepted my father's letters, remember? Leo bristled. You can't prove that. I don't need to. Delgado has sworn statements, and there's more. Your cousin's shell company, those consulting fees, the broken vendor contracts. I'm putting the pieces together. He stepped forward now, eyes cold. If you keep digging, Isabella, you'll hurt the family. You'll hurt yourself. I stared at him. This wasn't my brother anymore. Not really. This was a cornered man grasping at shadows, afraid of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant. So, what's the offer? I asked finally, keeping my voice steady. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You give me back partial control. We run Casa Martinez as co-owners. You keep the chef hat, I handle the business. We pitch a national expansion together. Turn this into something big. And if I say no? His voice dropped to a whisper. Then I go public, with documents, with claims that Dad wasn't of sound mind when he amended the will. I still have friends on the board, bankers, press contacts. I'll drag this into court for years. Camilla nodded beside him. You'll lose momentum, reputation. Even if you win legally, you'll bleed out slowly. I let silence hang in the air. Then I leaned in, looked him straight in the eyes and said, You're mistaking me for the girl you steamrolled 3 years ago. I'm not her, not anymore. So go ahead, take your shot. But know this, you're not the only one who knows how to fight. Camilla scoffed. You'll regret this. I already regretted staying quiet this long. They turned and left, the door swinging behind them. I stood there, fists clenched, heartbeat steady. He'd fired his first real shot, and I'd just stood my ground. This wasn't just about family anymore. This was war, and for the first time, I wasn't on the losing side. I stayed late at the restaurant that night. The dining room was dark, the kitchen spotless, the silence broken only by the low hum of the walk-in fridge and the scratching of my pen across paper. Leo thought he could scare me into surrender. He underestimated one thing. I had nothing left to lose, and everything worth fighting for. Chef Jorge had given me access to every file Leo left behind when he stormed out months earlier. Most of it was messy, half-labeled invoices, vague expense reports, vendor contracts with no contact info. But the deeper I dug, the clearer the pattern became. Shell companies, inflated consulting fees, overpriced vendor deals linked to names Camila had mentioned at parties years ago. It was sloppy, arrogant, almost like Leo assumed no one would ever challenge him. At 11:47 p.m., I found the file that made my blood run cold. A scanned contract between Casa Martinez LLC and Brio Concepts, a marketing consultancy that billed $18,000 per month for menu development and social media consulting. Except there was no website, no email domain, just a P.O. box. I ran the LLC registry through the state database. Owner, Sergio A. Navarro, Camila's cousin. I leaned back in the chair, the old leather creaking beneath me, my fists clenched. Leo hadn't just sold our recipes. He'd been bleeding the business dry, hiding it behind buzzwords and boardroom garbage. And he thought I wouldn't have the stomach to expose him? He didn't know me at all. As I printed out everything and placed it into a folder labeled Audit, I heard the front door creak. I stood up, heart thudding, but then I saw the silhouette, Louisa. She walked in slowly, her face soft but serious. I saw the light from across the street, she said. You're still working? I'm building a case, I said quietly. She looked down at the folder in my hand. You found it, didn't you? I nodded. All of it. The fake contracts, the licensing scam, the cousin's company. He was preparing to franchise Casa Martinez behind everyone's back. Luisa walked to the nearest chair and sat. Your father suspected something, she said. In his final months, he kept calling vendors, asking odd questions. One day he told me, I think Leo's not being straight with me, but I don't want to believe it. Why didn't he act? He was heartbroken, Luisa whispered. He didn't want to lose both of you, but when he changed the will, I think he knew it was the only way to save what mattered. We sat in silence for a moment before she added, I want to help. I turned to her, surprised. You've always been loyal to my family, I said. But Leo, I was loyal to this place, she interrupted. To your abuela, to the spirit of what this restaurant used to be. And when you came back for the first time in years, I saw her again. In you. A lump formed in my throat. I have the original staff schedule records, she continued. The real vendor invoices, before Leo altered them. I kept copies, just in case. You kept receipts? She gave a small smile. Mija, I've worked in restaurants for 30 years. We always keep receipts. I almost laughed. She placed a worn file on the table. If you want to take this to court, this will help. I reached for her hand. I don't know how to thank you. You already are, she said, by being here, by fighting. We stayed there for another hour, me scanning, printing, highlighting, Luisa double-checking names and dates. Two women who had once been ignored, talked over, dismissed, now plotting the comeback of a lifetime. By 2 a.m., we had enough evidence to open a full audit investigation. And I had one more thing planned, not just to stop Leo, but to make the truth public. Because a Martinez doesn't hide in the shadows. We cook in fire. We live in light. And tomorrow, I'd show the world what kind of legacy my father really left behind. By Monday morning, the conference room at Casa Martinez didn't smell like spices or roasted peppers. It smelled like smoke and paper, the kind that rises when secrets are set on fire. The boardroom was small, but packed. At the long wooden table sat the remaining 3 board members, including my father's oldest friend, Don Rafael, Clara Jimenez, a trusted vendor and silent partner, and Miguel Salinas, an accountant who once mentored Leo. Chef Jorge was there too, invited as my witness. At the far end of the table, sitting like he still owned the room, was Leo. Press-it shirt, jaw tight, eyes cold. Camilla sat beside him, flipping through her phone like this was just another boring brunch meeting. I placed the folder on the table. Neat, deliberate, heavy. Thank you all for making time today, I began. What I'm about to share isn't easy, but it's necessary. I opened the folder, sliding out printouts, copies, and financial summaries. Over the last week, we've uncovered clear evidence of financial misconduct during Leo's management. I'll walk you through it, line by line. Leo scoffed. This is a joke. Don Rafael raised a hand. Let her speak. I took a breath. First, Brio Concepts, a consulting firm paid over $200,000 last year. Registered to Camilla's cousin, no services rendered, no deliverables. Camilla flinched. Second, vendor deals signed at inflated rates, with shell companies masking personal connections. Third, the unauthorized licensing of our family's mole recipe to a national frozen food chain. No board approval, no family discussion, just Leo cashing in. Miguel frowned, flipping through the copies. These signatures are real? I verified them with Mr. Delgado, I said, and Luisa provided original vendor invoices for comparison. Leo slammed his hands on the table. This is a hit job. She's cherry-picking data, twisting numbers. No, I cut in. You did this. While Dad was dying, while you were standing at the center of the family dinners pretending to carry the torch, you were cutting deals behind his back. Don Rafael looked at him sharply. Leo, is this true? Leo's nostrils flared. I was saving the restaurant. We were bleeding money. I made us profitable again. By selling out? Clara asked, disgusted. No, Leo barked, by being smart. Isabella left. She ran off to play French chef while I held this place together. I didn't leave, I said calmly. I was pushed, repeatedly. By you, and by two parents who were too proud to see past a last name on a title. Silence. I stood taller. But Dad saw the truth before he passed. He amended the will, he made it right, and now I'm making sure it stays right. Miguel cleared his throat. This evidence is damning. I propose we vote, Clara added. Effective today, Leo Martinez is removed from all remaining operational duties and a full forensic audit is initiated. Leo stood. You can't do this! Don Rafael shook his head. We must. The company must come first. Clara looked to me. Isabella, are you prepared to lead? I met her eyes. I already have. The vote was unanimous. Leo's final attempt to hold on to the legacy he'd tried to exploit crumbled. He looked at me one last time, something bitter, broken, and almost boyish in his expression. I hope it was worth it, he whispered. I stared at him for a beat. No amount of money is worth losing your soul, Leo. But maybe it's not too late for you to find it again. He didn't answer. He just walked out, Camila trailing behind him. The room was quiet. Don Rafael smiled faintly. Your father would have been proud, Isabella. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Let's rebuild, I said softly. The right way. 3 months later, Casa Martinez reopened. Not with fireworks or fancy press releases, but with the smell of home. We brought back the dishes that made us who we were. Slow-cooked carnitas with abuela's spice blend. Red mole with toasted sesame and dark chocolate, served with hand-pressed tortillas. A flan that melted in your mouth, not because it was trendy, but because it was real. And for the first time in years, we had a wait list. Locals returned. Families brought their kids to sit at the same booths their parents once did. People didn't just come back for the food. They came back for the feeling, the warmth, the soul, the thing Leo tried to brand and bottle, but never truly understood. I kept my promise. We launched the Ramona Martinez Apprenticeship Program, named after my abuela, to train young chefs from underrepresented communities. The kitchen became more than a workplace. It became a classroom, a launch pad, a healing space. Even Leo's name stayed, on one plaque, framed in the hallway near the staff lockers. It read, To those who lost their way, may we all learn, grow, and come back better. Some of the team questioned that choice, but I needed it there. Not as punishment, but as reminder, because I hadn't just come back to win. I came back to rewrite the story. All of it. One evening, as I was wiping down the front counter, the bell above the door jingled. Leo walked in, alone. He looked different, thinner, quieter. No Camilla, no arrogance. Just a man who'd lost the weight of his own lies. I'm not here to fight, he said. Then you're welcome to sit. He did. We didn't talk much, just sat in silence, the kind only siblings can share, when there's been both too much said and not enough. After a while, he reached into his coat and slid over a worn envelope. Dad's last letter to me, he said. Thought you should see it too. I took it with trembling hands. Inside was a short note. Leo, I know you wanted to prove yourself. I see that now. But power without purpose is empty. Don't lose yourself chasing something that doesn't feed your soul. I looked up. Leo was already standing. I'm sorry, he said simply, and he walked out. That night, I sat in my father's old office, now mine, and finally allowed myself to cry. Not from pain, but from release. Because closure doesn't always come with dramatic endings. Sometimes it comes quietly, like steam rising from a fresh bowl of pozole, like a recipe remembered, a name reclaimed, a legacy rebuilt, on truth. The next morning, I stood outside Casa Martinez before sunrise, coffee in hand, watching the lights flicker on inside. Luisa pulled up in her little green car. Jorge arrived with fresh herbs in his bag. A new line cook unlocked the back door with a grin of excitement. And I smiled. Because this wasn't just my parents' restaurant anymore. It was ours, built on real roots, real values, real fight, and most of all, real love. To my viewers, Have you ever been told you didn't belong in your own family's story? Have you ever had to leave only to come back stronger, wiser, and unafraid? Drop your story in the comments. Like this video if Isabella's journey spoke to you. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about reclaiming your power and cooking up the life you deserve. Thanks for walking this road with me. See you in the next story.